Yo, what's happening, guys? So this week we have another Photoshop edit walkthrough, and the image I am walking you through today is this image on the screen, the goat in the boat image, which I was commissioned to create by PRO EDU, or the artists formerly known as RGG EDU, an education platform which has the best tutorials on photography, retouching and composite. So I'll leave some links to their website on the description under the video, and there's also a competition going on at the minute, and I'll leave the link to that, which you can all jump on board and get involved in. So the guys at PRO EDU came to me and asked me to create an image, and the only description they gave me was goats in a boat on some kind of epic adventure. So the first thing, for some reason, what popped into my head when I heard that was pirates. I don't know why pirates and goats in boats are synonymous with adventure, but for some reason that's what popped into my head. So I was thinking, how can I integrate like a goat and pirates in some kind of epic adventure? And then the idea of a giant octopus attacking a pirate ship and the goat just kind of floating past on his little boat and watching was the kind of idea that I keep saying kind of. I will stop saying that one day. So that's what I came up with, and I had a few ideas of how I wanted it to look. I wanted it to look very cinematic, very epic, like it could have been from a movie. As you can see, I think usually for me, when you want that feeling, it's always nice to have a backlit kind of feel, or like a little bit of rim light, and then contrast on the front, and then lots of rim light, things like that. So as you can see here, we've got the backlit octopus, and the pirate ship is a little bit backlit as well. Obviously we've still got the details and everything, because I wanted it to be very stylized as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the video, and then we will go through the image together, and I will show you how I created it. So before we start, I just want to say that I downloaded premium stock images from Shutterstock to use for this image. I wanted the images to be good quality, and obviously I didn't have the time to go out and shoot these epic sea images, so I went with stock, but I also used some free stock as well, so I'll let you know which the free stock was and which the premium was. So this image here was the first one I found on Shutterstock, and it was kind of the template for the image and the mood of the image and how it proceeded as we went along. So as soon as I saw this wave here, I kind of thought to myself that'd be a good way to have the octopus coming from the bottom of the sea and busting out of the ocean, and this could be the explosion of the sea from that happening. So let's just go along now. So this bit here, this again was a free stock image, and I always I like to create foreground interest in my images, and having the water here like a wave, I wanted the effect of like a wave hitting the camera or or whatever's recording this image, or like, I don't know, you can take artist liberties, but I wanted it to look like the wave was hitting it here, and you could just get a little glimpse underneath the water as well. So again, this was a stock image from Shutterstock, and again another premium stock image from Shutterstock. So this was the boat I decided to go with. I had a few ideas for different boats. At first my idea was something very elaborate. I thought I'd have a wooden boat and the goat would be on it, and he'd have a big harpoon, and it looks like he was going to be shooting at the octopus, but it just seemed to be getting out of control. So I thought it'd be nicer to have the goat as more of a viewer, just kind of drifting past the scene on one of his adventures. So here I am with the pen tool, the trusty pen tool, cutting out the image. If you use the pen tool, you'll know how boring this can be sometimes, especially when you have multiple elements to cut out. So now I'm just using Refine Edge, cutting out, and now I'm bringing it into the image and just playing around with composition, trying to work out where I'm going to put it. Resizing using Ctrl T. So now it's time to cut out the pirate ship, and I went through various ways of trying to cut this out, and the best way I thought was just to go around the boat and not try and get all these I don't know what they're called, ropes and things like that. I would paint them in afterwards in Photoshop. Even with the pen tool, these things are very hard to select out. You can use channels, but again, it's a bit hit and miss. So here I am again, just bringing the boat in and placing it into the sea, and then just trying to work out composition. As you can see here, a very rough cutout. You can see like a guy walking across this thing here, and there's people here. So I did have to do some cleanup on it. And as you can see here, I'm cutting out these, again, I don't know the terminology for pirate ships, so I'm just going to make something up and call them, I don't know, wall things. So I took these wall things and I duplicated them, and then I start to move them across and resize them and then pull them down here. So sometimes with composite, if you don't have the correct image you want, it's all about Frankensteining your images, taking bits from various other areas of the image and putting them together. And you can always create something, if you use your selections quite well, something what looks normal and what looks like it was already like that. You see there's still some people here, but I'll do also to get rid of them later. So now I'm just again cutting out these areas here so you can see through to the sky in front. So again, just using pen tool, refining. I cut out as well as possible, but in a rough kind of way, and then I always go in and refine cutouts and edges and things like that afterwards. I think getting your composition correct is it's best to get your composition correct and then go in and refine things. So I'm again painting out the people inside the boat. Just going over these areas here, using the wall things as I have now christened them. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting out this area here because I'm going to be sticking the octopus in this area, or the kraken if you want to call it that, and I will then put the kraken underneath this wave that I've cut out so it's kind of overlapping. I said kind of again. God damn you! So now I'm cutting out the goat. This was a little bit easier obviously because it's shot against a white background. So I use quick selection and then refine edge, and then use refine edge to pull out the hair on the goat. So if you shoot against a white background, these things can usually be a lot easier. But as you can see, the boat before was shot against a complicated background, so refine edge was not possible. So now I'm again playing with the edge of the goat, selection, still refining it and getting the composition right. So again, what I had to do now is, because I want to place the goat in the boat, we had to kind of cut. I said it again. One day I'll make a tutorial without ever saying kind of, but today's not the day. So what I did was I cut this boat, this side of the boat out here, and then duplicated it, and then I would put the goat on top of the boat. That's a mouthful. Put the goat on top of the boat, and then I would then take the duplicated side of this boat and then overlay it over the goat so it looks like it's in the boat. That's a mouthful. So as you can see, that's what I've just done. So now I am going in, and so what I'm doing here is I am using a help layer. I'm using a help layer to look at the lights and the darks of the image, because when you create a composite, you want the lights and the darks, so the tones to match up, so the contrast of the lights and the darks. So now I'm going over and refining the hair on the goat. It wasn't perfect, as refine edge never is. So now I am cutting out the octopus. Using refine edge, bringing it into the image now. Just messing about with composition, trying to see what works, what doesn't work. Turning the octopus around. And my method behind this is, in art you kind of want to there's a rhythm to the images, which I believe is called gamut. So there's a rhythm, so if you've got lines like this, see the lines on this ship kind of diagonally going down this way. When I had the octopus the other way, the line of his head was going this way, and now I've turned it again. The line kind of diagonally goes down a little bit this way, it just kind of matches the boat. There's a method to the madness. So now I'm just blending the octopus in and out, working out composition, using a layer mask. Now this is the part of the wave I cut out earlier. So I'm placing that over the top so the octopus blends in with the background. So again, just playing with composition. Don't be afraid to just play around and blend things in and out and see what works and what doesn't work. Quite liked this area here. I didn't want it as strong as that, but it's good to see maybe some of the form of the octopus underneath the water. Again, blending in and out on layer masks. So what I did there was I just used the select and modify and contract to pull, because there was a little bit of a halo, to pull in the to go inside of the halo and then delete it off the mask. Sounds complicated how I just described it, but it's not, trust me. I'm a professional. Right, so what I'm doing now is I am using, actually this was free stock from DeviantArt, little wave splashes, and obviously I want to blend the boat into the sea so it looks like it's splashing around in the water, so I used all these splashes underneath the boat here. Again, it's dramatic and wavy sea, so you would have quite a little bit of splash underneath the boat. So now we've got some splash here. So by this time in my head I'd already kind of thought I wanted one of the tentacles either coming out of the water and grabbing the boat, or just busting from the bottom of the boat so it looks like it's forced its way through the inside of the boat and out again. So here we are putting this idea into action. So using, again, cutting out the tentacle with a fine edge because it had a white background, placing it into the splash here, and then eventually I'll be putting bits of wood there so it looks like it's crashed and not smashed into the bottom of the boat and destroyed some of it. So now I'm putting a tentacle here because the other idea I wanted was I wanted it to look like it had grabbed one of the pirates, so as you can tell by this. By the way, this was the best action shot of a pirate I could get from Shutterstock, so if anyone has some good pirate stock images, get them on Shutterstock because they will sell like hotcakes, because that is the best they have. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, I used Mr. Cheesy Pirate here as a victim of the giant kraken. So here I'm just, again, getting the composition right, playing with size, using Control T, and just playing around until I get something I wanted. And the whole, I wanted the kind of tentacle here, I wanted the guy to be held by was too big, so I duplicated the tentacle and resized it and blended it in. Mr. Cheesy Pirate just hanging around. With his machete. Don't even know if pirates use machetes, but this pirate must be watching Friday the 13th or something. So here we go, yeah. Again, now just blending this tentacle in and out. Using Control T and moving things around. Again, now spending a little bit of time making this more realistic, getting the composition right. And I knew I knew that I wanted the pirate in this light area here, and I would have him kind of I would I keep saying it, I would have him in front of the light leak, and that would blend him in more into his environment. So as you can see how my brain works, I jump from one thing to another. So what I do now is I've got the pirate sorted, or kind of where I want it. I then jumped back to the goat and started to refine the edge of the goat and paint in some hair. Just using curves now and using the help layer to get into the correct tone, the correct light and darkness of all the other elements in the image. And now using the grass brush in Photoshop just to go over the edge of the goat and make the hair look more realistic, which is a trick I have used many times and it works very well. So don't be afraid to give it a try. So again, now using the help layer to adjust the contrast, light and the tonal light and darks of the elements, separate elements. As you can see here, because I've cut out part of the boat, I wanted to then blend in the part cut out with the rest of the boat. All with curves. I always use curves for most things. So now what I'm doing here, and what I just did then when it went all these funny colours, was using the help layer to look at the different hues. So every element what you bring in will probably or usually have a different hue because you've taken them from different images. So what you want to do is then try and match the hues of all the different elements so they all blend together. As you can see, this boat had a lot more orange hues here and around here, so the rest of the images will add more blues to it. So with curves, I'm then matching those hues to the hues around it. And that one just then, I wasn't quick enough, but that one just then when it went all red and grey was the saturation. So I was using the help layer to work out the saturation of all the different elements, so I could match up the saturation to each element to match them and blend the composite together. So what I'm doing now is I am, again, looks like going over the outline of the goat, just refining it. Don't ever do something and then go away thinking, I'll just leave it like that. Always go back and look over your image to make sure you've got all the little details and all the little masking areas correctly masked. Don't be lazy. So this is probably what I'm doing now. I'm probably just looking at the image and trying to work out if it looks okay, what do I need to adjust, how's it looking. Probably eating some Doritos and drinking drinking some Coke. Scratching my balls. Or maybe I got distracted by Pornhub. Who knows what I'm doing at this point in the image. Nothing seems to be happening. And nothing on screen seems to be happening, but there's a lot of stuff happening behind the screen. So yeah, I will fast forward because I must have definitely been up to something. So we go. So I finished what I'm doing and I've got back into action. Should really probably pause it when I'm scratching my balls and watching Pornhub, but there we go. So what I'm doing now is, as you can see here, I've added the splashes into the octopus and around the octopus, again blending him more into his environment. So as you can see here, splash, 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 splash. Let's just fast forward it a little bit. So here we go. So what I start doing now is bringing in the wood of the boat, and again this was just free stock from DeviantArt, or it could have been Pixabay. Just bringing them in and sticking them onto a multiply blend mode, and then just Control J to duplicate, and just to duplicate them on top of each other to get a stronger effect. And then what I wanted to do was add some movement to the wood, so I then used a motion blur to the wood so it looked like it's moving, obviously bringing some kind of element into the foreground to add depth to the image. and adding more of a motion blur to it, because the closer it would be, the more motion blur there would be. So again, just adding more splashes now to the octopus, blending it in more. As you can see, I still have a little bit of the octopus here, just visible through the water, as I'm guessing that's what it would be like. I've never seen a kraken in person, but I reckon if his tentacle was coming towards me, you would be able to see some kind of shape or shadow under the water. If you have seen a kraken, then send me some images and I can use them as a reference. So what I'm doing now is I am painting in the rope into the ship, the parts where I cut out because I just couldn't be asked. Spending hours and hours and hours cutting out the little ropes with pen tool. It's just quicker to paint them back in, and it also looks better. Or is that just an excuse because I didn't cut them out with the pen tool? Anyway, so now I'm going in and just refining all the areas. Now I'm playing with the contrast with curves. I like contrasty images. Obviously this is a moody image, I want it to have more contrast. And now I'm adding light glare or light flare or light leaks or whatever you want to call them into the image here in the sky where the sun would be penetrating through the clouds. And we get a little bit of light flare on the octopus, and that's what I wanted, again, as I said, for the cinematic feel. So what I did then was I downloaded some free stock of various islands and things like that, and I brought it in on a multiply blend mode. So this dodgy looking huge piece of rock here was, I had an idea, I wanted to put some kind of skull in a rock, a bit like Skull Mountain or whatever it's called in King Kong, and I used the same cliff or mountain or whatever the giant piece of rock's called, and I put them together, but it just didn't seem to work. So I played around with that for a little while, and then yep, didn't work. So what I did is I used this free stock image here, manipulated it a little bit, brought in the skull on a multiply blend mode, I believe, blended it into the mountain, and then just brought that into the background here again on soft light actually this time, and then used a layer mask to blend it in and out. So as you can see, I'm zooming in now with Ctrl Plus and just refining the edge of the mountain and adding a lack of contrast here where the horizon would be and the atmosphere haze. So now what I'm doing is I'm going in and adding more contrast and with curves, and now what I'm doing is dodging and burning. Using curves, dodge and burn. So I dodge and burn the goat, like pulling out details and just adding more depth to the goat as a whole. I'm going over the octopus. Adding a little bit of motion blur to the splashes. Just quickly going over and refining stuff, dodging and burning the pirate ship now, and again refining the edges of the ship, painting in more rope. I added a little bit of a shadow here, as you can see as well, for the tentacle. So what I'm doing here is using a gradient map to add colour. So I was going to go for this very kind of blue toned image, but it just felt a little bit too cold for me, so then I chose brown tones and added some blues to the shadows, and you just got that real cinematic feel to the image. Now what I did there was use Nick Colour Effects to pull out the details, and then I locally, using a layer mask, pulled out the detail where I wanted it. I just didn't globally smash it over the whole image. And here we are at the final image. So as you can see, that took quite a while. Lots of various techniques used. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some decent information in that, and I'd love to hear your comments and any kind of criticisms or just anything really. If you want to get in touch with me, just comment below on the YouTube video or on my Facebook. Again, this image was created for PRO EDU and it's for a competition they've got going on at the minute, so I will leave a link to that. I will leave a link to PRO EDU's website because they've got some badass Photoshop photography and retouching tutorials that you need to download if you want to become just as badass as the instructors on there. And cool, I'll see you again next week. Peace!